Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game From Scratch, and a couple of weeks back, like less than 2 weeks back, Unreal Engine 5 was shipped. And alongside of Unreal Engine 5 being launched, CD Projekt Red came out and said they were switching Witcher development to using UE5, which is a really impressive get by Epic Games. On top of that, Epic Games actually also said something like 40% of AAA titles announced in development are using Unreal Engine 5, which again, is pretty impressive. But what about Electronic Arts? That's who we are talking about today. And if you know Electronic Arts, you may already know, hey, they've got their own in-house engine, Frostbite, right? Yes, they do. And they use it to make a ton of their games. So basically some of their major marquee titles, Madden, FIFA, and of course the Battlefield titles, that's who invented. So DICE created the Frostbite engine, and then they started using it across the company in general. In fact, if you go to the Frostbite website, you're going to see this very interesting paragraph right here. Today, Frostbite is the core piece of EA's one-team strategy. Through the sharing of technology between studios, we are creating a shared language for EA developers. So that makes a ton of sense. They actually did this in the past. They bought renderware from Criterion and then sort of moved to using it in-house until next-gen performance kind of sucked on it. Then they switched to other engines. Ironically, Unreal Engine 3 was one of those engines. Well, this is kind of what they tried to do with Frostbite. They wanted to make it the universal engine inside of Electronic Arts. And again, that makes a lot of sense. That way you can move teams across, you've got a common shared knowledge base, and so on. A lot of reasons you would do this. So why would you maybe not do this? Well, if you're a gamer, Frostbite has been in the news, and you probably remember them for negative reasons. Now, the biggest one is BioWare, which is frankly one of my favorite developers, one of the best, most successful and consistent developers out there who have never, asterisk, shipped a turd of a game in their entire history. Well, Mass Effect Andromeda was about as close as it came, and they really came late on that. That was a 5-year development. I think that was 2 years over schedule. And if you remember how Andromeda shipped, the bugs and glitches that were in it, there were a lot of problems. And there was basically some talk that Frostbite engine was a particularly difficult hurdle for BioWare development. Okay, so that was not good. Now, remember that asterisk a second ago when I said they've never shipped a turd? Well, that didn't stay true. BioWare actually launched Anthem, what was this, 3 years ago, 2 years ago now? Wow, time flies. And Anthem was the first BioWare turd. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. It was a very problematic game. And once again, rumor came out that it was Frostbite engine that was the root cause of many of the issue. Now, this is the gaming press. Who knows if they're trying to make drama where drama exists? There's no way to know for sure that Frostbite was actually the... Oh, wait, yeah, there is. The general manager that left BioWare, Aaron Flynn, just straight out said, yeah, it was Frostbite. So when one of the biggest, most successful studios in the world starts shipping turds because of the game engine they're forced to use, that is not good. So we got here, basically he compared it to using an F1 racing car, which it makes a lot of sense. Using an F1 car, you know, if I use it to do my commute to work, potentially I could be the fastest person to work. But if my team isn't working on it, I'm going to probably blow up into a spectacular fireball, hope I don't hit a pothole or I'm going to flip over, etc. So you can get a heck of a lot out of something like the Frostbite engine, but it also requires a lot of support and it's very fragile, at least according to people that worked with it. Now, 99.9999999% of us have never touched Frostbite, so we can only speculate, but there definitely were some problems, it seems. Now, it seems like the games that were successful with Frostbite were the annual iterations. You know, love it or hate it, there are a lot of Battlefield games, and they share a lot of common code. Same with Madden, same with FIFA. These are the games where you kind of write once, and then each year you kind of tweak it slightly and add new content. Those kind of games, well, you've paid the blood price getting the engine up and running already, but where you're talking giant games or clean sheet games like those that are made at BioWare, well, then dealing with the complexities of a complex game engine really are going to bite you. Now, there is another negative piece of news about Electronic Arts' secret sauce. So, you know, they've got their special technology in-house that powers their games. It is secret to them. Oh yeah, no, they got hacked, and the source code for Frostbite, along with a couple of games, were actually released to the public. So it's not quite as secret as it used to be. Again, not the greatest piece of news for the Frostbite engine. But all this speculation aside, why are we talking about Unreal Engine here? Well, that comes down to some of what EA is doing on the hiring front. This is their global hiring page. You can come in here and search for all of their jobs. And what I did is I searched for Unreal. And what you're going to find, there's 90 positions being hired right now. Nothing really spectacular there. And you're going to find a lot of them are basically saying, we want prior AAA game experience, such as Unreal. Not a big shock there. Again, only 0.00001% of us have ever used Frostbite. So if you're trying to hire based on a proprietary in-house engine, it's going to be challenging. So you're going to be hiring Unity or Unreal Engine developers for people that have comparable experience. So that's what maybe half of these listings are that. But a couple of these other listings are very, very interesting. And remember, again, the key thing I want you to hold in your mind is that statement about being the one game technology across the entire company, because that seems to be a whole lot less true. Now, this first job posting, this actually isn't news. This came out several months back, I think, as a rumor that BioWare was going to be shifting to use Unreal Engine. And what you see here, Edmonton/Austin EA offices, yeah, that's BioWare. And you can see here, they are looking for developers experience for their next game for narrative-driven action RPGs. So that is probably going to be in Mass Effect that they're talking about here. And you see that they're straight out looking for full cycle AAA game development experience with modern game engine, Unreal Engine experience. That's very explicit there. Now, it's come out a couple of times in the past that BioWare was going to switch to Unreal Engine. This is not a huge shock. This isn't news, but this one is news. And this is pretty big, actually, because what you see here, this is Austin, Los Angeles, Vancouver, Montreal, California, and Florida. So basically, across EA North America, they have a division called the Studio Technology Group, which is kind of like if you had, say, a universal game engine you want to support across your entire company, you would use something like a Studios Technology Group to power it. So it powers EA's premier studios to create even better experiences. We help shape the future from the way games are created to how they are played and viewed. In terms of this actual job, you will focus on our initiative to improve in the game engine space and help shape the long-term vision of Unreal Engine use at EA. So there's no ambiguity there. They are using Unreal Engine at EA in the future. This job is quite literally about being the central point of contact for all of that knowledge. So you're going to see you are establishing a shared Unreal knowledge base. So at the very least, instead of having a single language at EA, they are now a bilingual company, and they're looking for Unreal Engine developers to be supporting their global team. So you're looking shared development, maintain an overview of code divergence across all teams, foster working relationships with multiple teams across EA. So this isn't just EA is going to be using it at one particular studio, because we also already know that their next Jedi-based game is using Unreal Engine as well. So we know they're moving to, or they already had games in development at studios that they acquired. So you can see there's definitely a movement towards Unreal Engine use. Now, this next job listing is probably even more interesting, because this is out of Seattle, Washington. And then Seattle is actually a newly formed studio focusing on open world action adventure games. So this is clean slate. They do not have any prior technology to work with. It is a brand new team, and they are looking for using Epic's Unreal Engine. You will prototype and implement both movement and combat features. So quite literally, the ground floor at the new Seattle studio is being built on Unreal Engine technology. So there's no question here. They are transitioning more and more to using Unreal Engine at Electronic Arts. That whole one engine to rule them all thing, well, that just didn't work out. Now, the interesting thing, though, is we go back to the Frostbite page, you will see over here, job openings, they are still hiring Frostbite developers across the company. Now, the interesting thing here is the majority of them, especially at the more work on the engine itself, rendering, software engineering, those kind of jobs, physics, those are all Europe, or there's one in Australia. So it almost seems like what's happening is North America is going to be Unreal Engine, Europe, so basically that is where FIFA is made and where the Battlefield games are still made. They seem to be sticking to Frostbite. So I'm guessing that is what we are seeing here. EA is definitely not going to be going, like, this whole thing, this whole Frostbite is the core piece of the one team strategy. Well, that is done. they're not creating a shared language. Actually, they are creating a shared language. They're quite literally hiring the person in charge of that. It just seems like it's Unreal Engine and not Frostbite anymore. I'm curious here what you think. Am I like grasping at straws here, or do you think the writing is on the wall here and that Electronic Arts is in fact transitioning over to using Unreal Engine more and more? And I'm guessing what they'll do is all of their annual iteration games will stay on whatever code base they're on now. It looks like new titles are being started using Unreal Engine. And there is also a certain sadness of having, one engine taking over the world. You're kind of putting all your eggs in the basket in that case. But I'm curious what you think of this move. Do you think it makes sense for Electronic Arts to switch to Unreal Engine? Let me know, comments down below, and I'll talk to you all later. Goodbye.